5 have a mystery to solve. By Enid Blyton. Julian, Dick and Anne were back home for the Easter holidays. They had been planning to spend the day at Kirin with George and Timmy, but their mother said they couldn't because a certain Mrs. Lehman was coming to tea and she wanted to see them about something. So instead of going to Kirin, Anne phoned George and invited her and Timmy over to see them. Now the 3 of them were off shopping for food, cycling along the lane to the village. It was a truly lovely spring day. Dick burst into song as they went, and the cows in the nearby fields lifted their heads in surprise as Dick's loud voice swept round them. Anne laughed. It was good to be with her brothers again. She missed them very much when she was at school, and now they would have almost a month together with their cousin George. She was suddenly overwhelmed with joy and lifted up her voice and joined Dick in his singing.
Now let's all be happy.
Her brothers looked at her with affection and amusement.
His hat on and he's coming out to play.
Good old Anne. You're such a quiet little mouse. It's nice to hear you sing so loudly.
I am not a quiet little mouse. What makes you say that? Just wait. You may get a surprise one day.
Yes, we may, but I doubt it. A mouse can't suddenly turn into a tiger. Anyway, one's quite enough. George is the tiger of our family. She can roar and rant and rave.
Oh, stop teasing. Anyway, here's the butcher's. You go and get the sausages and a nice meaty bone for Timmy, and I'll go and buy the cakes.
I hope the old lady, what's her name? Layman, who's coming to tea today, has a good appetite. I wonder what she's coming to tell us about.
Yes, I wonder.
George and Timmy were waiting for Julian, Dick and Anne when they arrived home. Timmy was standing in the road, ears pricked, long tail waving. He went quite mad when he saw their bicycles rounding the corner and galloped towards them at top speed, barking madly. George heard Timmy barking and ran out into the road too. The 3 cycled up to her and she grinned happily at them.
Hello. Been shopping, I see. Oh, shut up barking, Timmy. Sorry you couldn't come over to Hill Cottage, but I'm jolly glad you asked me to come to you. My father still hasn't found some papers he's lost, and the place is like a madhouse. Cupboards turned out everywhere. Talk about a mess.
He's probably put the papers in the waste paper basket by mistake.
Gracious, I never thought of that. Who's this Mrs. Lehman who's coming to tea? Have we got to stay in and have tea with her?
Afraid so. Apparently she's coming to talk to us about something. So you'd better be on your best behaviour, George.
Ha!
Come on now. We'd all better get indoors before Timmy gets some of the cakes out of the bags. Stop licking that bag, Tim. You'll make a hole in it.
He can smell the cherry buns inside.
Well, he's not having one. Come on.
The morning went very pleasantly. After George had said hello to her aunt, the 5 went down to the beach and walked round the high cliffs, and Timmy raced after every seagull that dared to sit on the sand. When tea time came, they all felt quite ready for it, and were most impatient when Mrs. Lehman was late. But then the front doorbell rang, and in came a cheerful, smiling old lady, nodding to everyone, very pleased to see such a nice little party waiting for her. They all sat down to tea, and soon the bread and butter, the sandwiches, the buns, the cakes, and everything else had disappeared. Timmy sat quietly by George, who slipped him a titbit now and again when no one was looking. Mrs. Lehman chatted away. She was a most interesting person.
Well now, I'm sure you must be wanting to know why I asked to come to tea today. I wanted to ask your mother, Julian, if there was any chance of you 3 and this other boy here, what's his name, George, would you like to help me out of a little difficulty?
Nobody pointed out that George was a girl, not a boy, and that George was short for Georgina. George, as usual, was pleased to be taken for a boy. They all looked at Mrs. Lehman, listening to her with interest.
It's like this. I've a dear little house up on the hills overlooking the harbour, and I've a grandson staying with me there, Wilfred. Well, I have to go and look after this cousin of mine who's ill, and Wilfred can't bear to be left alone. So I just wondered if your mother would allow you children to share the little house with Wilfred and, well, keep him company. Otherwise, all he'll see is the woman who comes in to cook and clean.
You mean that lovely little house with the wonderful view?
Yes, but it's rather primitive in some ways. No water, just a well, and no electricity or gas, just candles or an oil lamp. Maybe it sounds too old-fashioned for words, but that view makes up for it, I think. Perhaps the children would like to come over and see it before they decide.
Well, we'll certainly come and see it, and if the children feel they like it, they can stay.
Yes, we'll come and see it, Mrs. Lehman. Mother's going to be busy with the bazaar soon, so she'll be glad to get us out of the way, I expect.
Oh, tomorrow then, about 10 o'clock.
Oh, yes.
Next day, the children prepared to go and see the cottage. Julian's mother decided not to come after all. She had rather a lot to do. So the four of them set off on their bicycles, with Timmy running alongside. They went along a road that ran along the top of a hill. They swung round a corner, and there, spread far below them, was a great sea vista that included a wonderful harbour. The sea was as blue as the Mediterranean, and quite breathtaking. Anne jumped off her bicycle at once.
I must feast my eyes on all this before I go any further. What a view!
It's fantastic.
Oh, what's that?
It's a golf ball. Don't pick it up. Whoever's playing with it has to come and hit it from exactly where it fell. Good thing you weren't hit, Anne. I didn't realise this gate led onto the golf course.
Funny game, really. Just hitting a ball all round the course.
Wish I had some clubs. I'm sure I could hit some smashing shots.
Well, if the cottage is anywhere near this golf course, perhaps you could pay to have a lesson.
Let's get going anyway, you two. We have to look for a small white cottage with Hill Cottage painted on it. It's on the hillside facing the sea.
All right, George, we're coming.
Soon they were all riding along the road again, and it wasn't long before they came to a funny old cottage. Its back to them, its front looking down the steep hill that ran towards the great harbour and the sea beyond. The cottage had a wooden door, hung rather crooked, with an old brass knocker. Julian knocked, but nobody came to open it. He knocked again, and then opened the door. It opened straight into a room that looked like a kitchen. It was old, very old. Ancient oil lamps stood on 2 tables. A narrow, crooked stairway curved up to the floor above. Julian went up and found himself in a long, darkish room, its roof thatched with reed and held up by black beams. Then, as he came back down the stairs, the front door was flung open and someone came in.
What are you doing here? This is my cottage. Are you Wilfred by any chance?
Yes, I am. And who are you? And where's my grandmother? She'll soon chuck you out.
Is your grandmother Mrs. Lehman? If so, she asked us to come and see the cottage and decide if we'd like to keep you company.
Well, I don't want you, so clear off.
I thought there was a lady who looks after you too. Where's she?
She only comes in the morning. She left me some food. Then I sent her off, and you can clear off too.
Don't be an idiot, Wilfred. You can't live here on your own. You're just a kid.
I shan't be living on my own. I've got plenty of friends.
You can't have plenty of friends here in this lonely place.
Well, I have, and here's one, so look out.
A snake!
It's all right, Anne. It's only a harmless grass snake. Put it back in your pocket, Wilfred, and don't play the fool. If that snake is the only friend you have, you'll be pretty lonely here by yourself.
Come out here on the hillside and see some of my friends, if you don't believe me.
They all trooped out of the little cottage onto the hillside, amazed at this fierce, strange boy. He ordered them to sit down and be quiet. Then he pulled from his pocket a little musical pipe. He put it into his mouth and began to whistle. There was no tune, no melody, just a kind of beautiful dirge. Anne thought it sounded very sad. A moment later, something stirred a little way down the hill, and then, to everyone's surprise, an animal appeared, a hare. It lolloped right up to Wilfred and began to dance. The tune changed a little, and a rabbit appeared. Then another and another. A bird flew down, a beautiful magpie. And then Timmy went gently over to Wilfred, lay down and put his head on the boy's knee. Wilfred fondled Timmy's head.
Timmy, come here! Timmy? That's it, there, boy.
I've decided you can come and stay on my cottage after all, if you bring that dog too. There aren't many dogs like him. He's a wonderful dog. I'd like him for one of my friends.
Where are you going?
Down the hill to see some more of my friends.
Well, what do you make of that?
I think we should thank Timmy. We certainly wouldn't have had this lovely little cottage if he hadn't made friends with Wilfred. What a funny boy he is.
Very peculiar, if you ask me. I'm not sure I like him one bit.
Don't be silly, George. He must have a wonderful love for animals. They would never come to him as they did if they didn't trust him absolutely. Anyone who loves animals as he does must be all right.
I bet I could make them come to me if I had that pipe.
Of course you could, George.
I could too.
Stop arguing, you two. Let's go back inside.
It's such a lovely little cottage, isn't it? I'm really going to enjoy it here.
Well, we'll have to go back home and collect a few clothes and other things. We can shop on the way back. Hello, it sounds as if someone's inside. How could Wilfred have got back in without us seeing him? Oh, it's you, Mrs. Lehman.
Hello. I thought I'd pop over to see if you liked Hill Cottage.
Do we? You bet. And if it's all right, we'd like to move in today. We can easily go home and bring back anything we need. It's a glorious old place, isn't it? And the view must be the finest anywhere.
Well, that harbour is the second biggest natural harbour in the whole world. The only one that is any bigger is Sydney Harbour. So, you have something to feast your eyes on, Julian.
I'd say. I just wish I could paint.
Where's Wilfred, by the way? Is he behaving himself? He's rather a difficult boy at times.
Oh, don't you worry about Wilfred. He'll have to toe the line and do as he's told. He's a wonder with animals, though.
Yes, I suppose he is. Though I can't say I like pet snakes or beetles and things. Don't stand any nonsense from him.
We shan't. And thanks for letting us have the cottage, Mrs. Lehman. We'll take great care of everything.
I know you will. Well, goodbye, children. Give Wilfred my love, and I hope he doesn't fill the cottage with animals of all kinds. Bye.
Later, Julian, Dick and George and Timmy went off to their homes to collect the things they needed, leaving Anne to tidy up the cottage and sort everything out. She had just cleaned out the larder and collected a bucket of water from the well when Wilfred appeared. He pushed her aside and went into the cottage, saying he was hungry. He opened the larder door and took down a tin. There was a cake inside, and he cut off a huge piece. He didn't offer Anne any.
Couldn't you have cut me a piece too? You really are a rude boy, you know.
I like being rude, especially to people who come to my cottage when I don't want them.
Oh, don't be so silly. It isn't your cottage. It belongs to your grandmother. She told us so. Anyway, you said we could stay if Timmy stayed too.
I'll soon make Timmy my dog, you'll see. Soon you won't want that girl George anymore, and he'll follow at my heels day and night. You'll see.
You've got to be joking.
Don't you dare laugh at me. I'll call up my grass snake and my adder. Then you'll run for miles.
Oh, no, I won't. Just watch yourself run.
What are you doing with that bucket?
You'll see.
You wouldn't dare.
Oh, no.
No.
Ah! Ha! That'll teach you to mind your manners.
Anne, what on earth's going on?
Julian, when did you get back?
Just now. The others are on their way. But what's Wilfred been doing?
That girl, that bad, wicked girl. She's like a tiger. She sprang on me and threw the bucket of water all over me. I won't let her stay in my cottage.
So the mouse has turned into a tiger. Anne, let me see if you've grown claws.
Oh, Julian, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have soaked Wilfred. But he was so irritating, I lost my temper.
All right, all right. It's quite a good thing to do sometimes, and I bet young Wilfred deserved it. You'd better change out of those wet things, Wilfred. You heard what I said, Wilfred. Jump to it. Go and change.
Oh, Wilfred, I'm sorry. Truly I am. I don't know why I turned into a tiger so suddenly.
I'm sorry too. You're nice.
Now where's he gone?
Let him be for a while. This will do him good. Nothing like having a bucket of cold water flung over you to make you see things as they really are. He was probably touched when you said you were sorry. He's probably never apologised to anyone in his life before.
And after that, Wilfred was nicer to everyone. He was most polite to both the girls, and, as Dick said, he didn't throw his weight about nearly so much. They all settled down very well together in the cottage. They had most of their meals out of doors, sitting on the warm grass. It was glorious out in the sun high up on their hill. They could look down on the harbour and enjoy the wonderful views all around. George was very curious about the island that lay in the middle of the harbour.
What's it called, Wilfred? That island?
Don't know. There's a strange story about it.
Really? What?
Well, it belonged to a lonely old man. He lived in a big house in the middle of a wood. The island was given to his family by a king. James II, I think. This old man was the very last one of his family, and people kept wanting to buy his island. And he had some kind of watchmen to keep people from landing on it. These watchmen were pretty fierce. They had guns.
Gosh, did they shoot people who tried to land then?
Well, they were shot to frighten them off, not to hurt them, I suppose. Anyway, a lot of sightseers had an awful fright when they tried to land.
Is there anyone there now?
I don't think so, but I don't know an awful lot about it. I tell you who does, though. One of the groundsmen on the golf course called Lucas. He was once one of the watchmen himself.
It might be rather interesting to talk to him. I fancy a walk over to the golf course anyway.
Well, let's go now. Timmy's longing for a good long walk, aren't you, Timmy?
So the five, with Wilfred too, went up the hill, crossed over the road that ran along the top, and climbed over a stile. They found themselves on one of the fairways of the golf course, not far from a green in which stood a pole with a bright red flag. Wilfred led them down the hill towards where a man was trimming up a ditch. It was Lucas. His face was as brown as a well-ripened nut, and his arms and shoulders were even browner. He wore no shirt or vest, and his dark, deep-set eyes twinkled as they took in the five children and the dog.
Hello there, young Wilfred. You brought some friends with you, I see.
Yes, this is Julian, Dick, George and Anne.
Hello.
How do you do?
Oh, and Timmy.
Well, I'm very pleased to meet you all. Now, to what do I owe this pleasure?
We came to ask you something about the island in the harbour. What's its name? And does anyone live there now?
We can see it from the cottage at the top of the hill. It looks awfully quiet and lonely.
And so it is. Do you want me to tell you all about it?
Oh, yes, please.
Well, now, that island's always been a mystery place. It's called Wailing Island by some folks on account of how the wind makes a right strange wailing noise around its cliffs. And others call it Whispering Island, because it's full of trees that whisper in the wind. But most of us call it Keep Away Island, and that's the best name of all, for there's never been a welcome there, what with the dark cliffs, the cruel rocks, and the dense woods.
Tell us about the rich old man who hated everyone, Lucas.
I'm telling the story my own way. Yes. Be patient now, or I'll start my ditching again. Sit like this dog, you see. He doesn't twitch a muscle. Good dog, that is.
I know.
Yes, now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Well, about this rich old man. He was so afraid of being robbed that he bought that lonely island, and he built himself a great castle right in the middle of the thick woods. Cut down about 100 trees to make way for it, he did.
Were you alive then?
Bless you, boy. No, of course not. Long before my time, that was. Well, the stone house, or castle, call it what you like, was built. And the old man brought to it all kinds of treasures. Beautiful statues, some of gold, it was said. A wonderful sword worth a king's fortune. And other things I can't remember.
And what happened to all these things?
Well, now, he fell foul of the king of the land, and one morning, what did he see landing on the shores of his island but ships of all kinds? And men from those ships, they stormed the stone castle and killed the old man and all his servants.
Did they find the treasures the old man had collected?
Not one thing. Some say it was all a tale. The old man never did have any wonders there. I think it's all a yarn myself, but a good yarn at that.
So who owns the island now?
Well, an old fellow and his wife went to live there, and they didn't care for anything except for the birds and animals there. It was they who kept the gamekeepers and guns to frighten away sightseers. They wanted peace and quiet to themselves and for all the wildlife on the island. Fine idea, too. Many a time I was there with the other keepers, 3 of us there were. And I had rabbits gambolling over my feet, birds tame as canaries.
I'd love to go there. Can anyone go there now?
No, not a soul has lived in the old stone castle since the old fellow and his wife fell ill and died. The place is empty. The island belongs to a great-nephew, the old couple now, but he never goes there. Just keeps a couple of men on the island to frighten off visitors, and pretty fierce they are, so I've been told. Well, there you are. That's the story of Whispering Island. Not very pleasant. But it belongs to the birds and the beasts now, and good luck to them.
Thank you for telling us the story.
A pleasure. Yeah. Well, I'll be off to my hedging and ditching now. That's happiness enough for anyone. And it's a pity more folks don't know it. Goodbye.
The children walked round the golf course together after talking to old Lucas. Suddenly, Timmy darted into the bracken and came out with something in his mouth. It was a golf ball, fairly new. Timmy found 5 more balls after that, and soon Julian's pockets were heavy with them. They made their way to the small clubhouse in the distance, meaning to give in the balls. It was set in a little dip, and looked friendly and welcoming. They all went in at the door, and Julian walked over to one of the golfers who was checking some scorecards. He emptied his pockets of balls and grinned.
A present from our dog.
Oh, my words. Did you find all those? Not bad ones either. I'll stand you all some lemonade. Will you have some?
Oh, yes, please.
Here we are, then. Help yourselves.
Thanks.
So, where are you from, then?
We're staying in that little cottage up on the hillside. Do you know it?
Hill Cottage? Of course I do. My grandmother lived there once upon a time. Lovely view, too. One of the finest in the world, I reckon. You can see Whispering Island from there, too. Mind you, it ought to be called Mystery Island. It's said that folks have gone there and never come back.
What happened to them?
Oh, maybe it's all a tale. There's supposed to be priceless things there, packed away somewhere. And collectors from all over the world have come here and tried to get over to the island. Well, not to steal, but to see if they could find anything worthwhile and buy it for museums or their own collections. It's even said there are statues in the wood, white as snow.
And didn't the collectors come back?
It's said a lot of them didn't. But that may be silly tales. What I do know is that 2 men came down here from some museum in London and hired a boat to go across. They took a white flag with them so the keepers wouldn't shoot them. And after that, nobody heard a word about them. They just disappeared.
Well, what happened to them?
Nobody knows. Their boat was found miles out to sea, drifting and empty.
Didn't the police do anything?
Oh, yes, they went across to the island, but the keepers swore they'd seen nobody arriving and they were the only people on the place. The police landed and searched everywhere, but they found nothing except the great castle-like house in the woods. Oh, and hundreds of animals, so tame they'd sit and watch you as you walked by.
All very mysterious. Well, thanks for the welcome lemonade. We'd already heard a bit from a groundsman of yours, Lucas, a real old countryman.
Ah, Lucas. Yes, he knows the island well. He was once one of the keepers, you know. Well, come and see me again sometime. Oh, and thanks for the balls. It isn't everyone who's honest enough to come and give them in when they find them. All right, bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
They all said goodbye and went out. Timmy ran off into the bracken again, hunting for more golf balls. The others went to walk up the hill, talking about the island.
I wonder what really did happen to those 2 collector men. Funny their boat was found adrift and empty.
They must have been drowned, of course. I just wonder if anything is left of their old treasures. No, there wouldn't be. The police would have made a very thorough search.
I wish we could go to the island. I don't expect the keepers would shoot at us, would they?
That's very wishful thinking, George. We're certainly not going near that island, so put that idea right out of your head.
Well, I knew it was impossible, really. But wouldn't it be a grand adventure if we managed to get on this mysterious Whispering Island and explore it without the keepers knowing?
Not such a grand adventure if we were all peppered with shot. Anyway, we wouldn't find anything of interest. The treasure must have been removed ages ago. The only possible thing of interest would be the tame wild creatures there. Wilfred would go mad with joy, wouldn't you, Wilfred?
I'd like it very much. What's more, I might hire a boat myself and row to the island to see if I can spot any animals.
You'll do nothing of the sort, so don't try any silly tricks, see?
I shan't promise. You just never know.
Oh, yes, I do. You're just trying to sound big. Anyway, come along, everyone. It's past our dinner time, and I'm ravenous.
As usual, they took their lunch out on the hillside. It was lovely sitting there watching the boats in the harbour and seeing the beautiful white-sailed yachts bending to and fro in the strong wind that blew there. They could all see Whispering Island quite clearly, and noticed that no boats went anywhere near it.
Of course, there might be badgers there. I've never really been close to a badger.
I shouldn't think anyone but you would want to be. Smelly things. That's one thing you can't call with your whistle pipe. There aren't any here.
Wilfred, get out your pipe and make the little rabbits come again. Would they?
Yes, I think so. Now, where did I put it?
What?
My pipe! It's gone! I must have lost it!
It must be in one of your pockets.
It's not, I tell you. I've never had another one like it. Never!
I'm sorry for poor Wilfred, aren't you?
No, I'm not. Serves him right. I hope he never finds his silly pipe. That'll teach him not to try and get Timmy away from me.
Oh, don't be silly. He does it for fun. He's your dog and nobody else's. Wilfred's only teasing you when he tries to get Timmy to go to him.
Timmy goes, though, doesn't he? And he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
He can't help it. Wilfred has some peculiar attraction for animals, and that little whistle pipe of his is like a magic call to them.
I'm glad it's gone. Glad.
I think you're silly and unkind. I'm going back to the others. Where's Wilfred gone, Dick?
To look for his precious pipe. He's really heartbroken about it. He says he's going to walk all the way back to the golf course and hunt for it.
Poor old Wilfred. He won't be able to call the wild animals to him anymore.
I suppose old George doesn't know anything about it. That's a mean thing to say. But George might have found it and kept it just for a joke.
No, I don't think she'd do that. It would be a very poor joke. Well, we'll just have to hope he finds it. What are you going to do this afternoon, Julian? Sleep by the look of you.
Yes, sleep out in the warm sun. Then I'm going for a walk down to the harbour. I might even have a bathe.
We'll all go. Oh, how lovely it is to feel lazy and warm and well-fed and so sleepy.
The two boys and Anne and George slept soundly in the sun until just past 3 o'clock. Then, carrying their bathing things, they made their way down the hill across a stretch of moorland to the edge of the sea, Timmy running joyously behind them. They had a wonderful time in the water. The waves were big and curled over like miniature waterfalls, sweeping the children along with them. It was an ideal day for bathing. When they came out, they lay on the sand in the sun for a while. Then Julian saw a notice not far off, which said, "Boats for hire. Inquire at hut." A boy of about 15 sat there, renting out the boats, and he told them it worked out cheaper to take one by the week, and that's what they decided to do. The boat they chose was one called Adventure. A jolly good name for a boat of theirs, said Dick. And soon they were in the boat, bobbing about on the waves. Julian took the oars and pulled it out to sea. Now they were in the full breeze, and a strong one it was too. The tide was running out and pulled the boat strongly out to sea. Whispering Island suddenly seemed very much nearer.
Better look out. We don't know if a keeper's on guard somewhere on the shore of the island. We're getting pretty near.
But the outgoing tide swept the boat on and on towards the island, so that very soon they could see a sandy shore. Dick took one oar and Julian the other, and they tried to row against the tide and take the boat back into calm water. It was no good. The tide was far too strong. Very soon the boat was quite near the shore of the island, and then an enormous wave flung them right up the sand and left the boat grounded as it went out again. The boat slid over to one side, and they all promptly fell out.
Phew! What a tide! I had no idea it ran so strongly.
What shall we do?
We'll just have to stay on the island until the tide turns and we can row back on it. Give me a hand to pull the boat a bit further up the beach.
Come on!
Listen! The trees are really whispering. It's as if they were talking to each other. No wonder it's called Whispering Island.
I don't like it much.
It's just the noise of the whispering. Well, what shall we do before the tide turns?
Shall we explore? After all, we've got Timmy with us. No one is likely to attack us if they see him.
They've got guns, haven't they?
I think you're right. Keep your hands on Timmy's collar, George.
You know what I think? I think we ought to try and find the guards and tell them the tide swept us onto the island, quite by accident. We're not grown-ups come to snoop around. so they're sure to believe us. And would be safe from chasing or shooting then.
Yes, good idea. Give ourselves up and ask for help. After all, we hadn't any real intention of actually landing. The tide simply threw our boat into that cove.
So they walked up to the back of the cove and into the wood, where the whispering was very loud indeed once they were actually among the trees. No one was to be seen. Then, after about 10 minutes hard walking and climbing, Julian came to a stop. He had seen something through the trees, a great grey wall made of stone. It was a very high wall indeed, but when they came to a corner and peeped round, there was a great courtyard, quite empty. Then suddenly 2 enormous men came down a flight of stone steps. They looked so fierce that Timmy couldn't help giving a blood-curdling growl. The men stopped short and looked round, wondering where the sound came from. And then, to the children's enormous relief, they raced off in the wrong direction. The 5 made their way back beside the stone wall through the whispering trees to the cove.
We'd better row back as quickly as we can. I think something's wrong here. Those men looked like foreigners. They certainly weren't gamekeepers. I wish we hadn't come.
Julian, where's our boat? It's gone. This can't be the right cove.
It looks the same cove to me, except the sea has come in a bit more. Do you think it took our boat away? Gosh, look at that wave sweeping in and sucking back.
My word, yes. Our boat could easily have been dragged out in a wave like that.
It is the same cove. Here are our clothes. Look, we hid them here.
What an idiot I am. We should have pulled the boat as far up as we could.
I'm cold now. I'm going to dress. It will be easier carrying a bathing suit than a heap of clothes.
But the thing is, what are we going to do now? No boat to get back in. And why on earth did we choose one called Adventure? We might have known something would happen.
We can't signal, I suppose.
With what? You could wave a shirt for an hour and it wouldn't be noticed.
Well, we must think of something. What about trying to find a boat here? Surely those men must have one to get here.
Of course. Where are my brains? They seem to be going soft or something. We could snoop round tonight and see if there's a boat anywhere. They may have 2 or 3.
Timmy doesn't like this island. He smells danger.
I bet he does. But I'm jolly glad he's with us.
So am I. Especially with fellows like those 2 horrible men we saw in the courtyard. I don't think they were merely gamekeepers. They looked like guards of some kind to me.
Well, what were they guarding then?
That's what I'd very much like to find out. And I think perhaps I'll snoop round a bit and see what I can discover when it's getting dark.
I wish I hadn't come. I wish we were safe in our cottage with Wilfred. Oh, I wonder if he's found his whistle pipe. Goodness, it seems ages since we hired that boat.
Can't we go quietly through the woods and explore a bit now? I'm getting bored sitting here.
Well, I suppose old Tim would give us a warning at once if he heard anyone.
So they made their way carefully and silently through the whispering trees once again. Then suddenly, Timmy gave a warning growl, and they all stood still at once. They could hear nothing. They were in a very dense part of the wood, and it was dark and sunless. What was Timmy growling at? Julian went forward as silently as he could. Then he stopped and stared. There was a strange figure gleaming out of the shadows, an arm outstretched as if pointing at something.
What is it, Julian?
It's like a ghost. I don't like this.
We'll see.
George, come back.
Well, how do you do? It's so nice to meet a well-mannered statue.
A statue?
Of course.
Oh, yes. Look around you, everyone. The wood's full of statues, and aren't they beautiful?
That man at the golf club, the one we took the lost balls to, he said something about statues as white as snow. Do you remember?
Yes. They must have stood here for some time.
And what about the other stories, then?
Well, yes. Lucas said there were gold statues too, didn't he? And a sword worth a king's fortune.
To think they might all be quite near us, somewhere on Whispering Island.
What is it? What do you want, Timmy?
Perhaps he's hungry.
Thirsty, more likely. Look at his tongue hanging out.
Oh, poor Tim. You haven't had a drink for hours.
We shall all be thirsty soon. I wonder where we can get some water.
Would it be dangerous to go near the castle and see if there's a tap anywhere?
Yes, it would. We're not going near any of those men with guns. They might have been told to shoot on sight.
We're not that far from the castle now. See, there are the walls, just through those trees.
Oh, you're right. I didn't think we'd come so close.
What's that round thing over there, then?
Where?
There, see?
I know what that is. It's a well.
A well? Let's see if it's got some water in it.
It's got a pulley at least. But is there a bucket? If there is, we can let it down and fill it for Timmy.
I think there is. Yes, down there. I'll let it down. It's awfully stiff. There. Oh, no! Blow. It's suddenly loosened, and now the bucket's jumped off the hook. It'll probably sink now.
Is there a ladder down the well? If so, I could shin down and get the bucket.
No.
I could chin down the rope, though, couldn't I? I'm lighter. Then you and George could turn the handle and pull me up with a bucket.
OK, down you go then. The rope's good and strong.
Right.
Down the rope Dick went, hand over hand, just like he did at school in the gym. When he got to the bottom, he took hold of the bucket handle and filled the bucket full, then shouted to be pulled up. It was slow work. Gradually Dick came up nearer and nearer to the top. When he was halfway up, they heard him give an exclamation and call out something, but they couldn't make out what it was. They reached down and took the bucket from Dick as soon as his head appeared at the top. Timmy fell on it with excited barks and began to lap furiously.
Didn't you hear me yelling to you to stop when I was halfway up?
What's the excitement? We couldn't make out what you said.
I shouted because I saw something quite peculiar as I came up the well. It looked awfully like a little door, an iron door.
A door in a well? But where on earth would it lead to?
That's what we're going to find out. Who would ever think of putting a door in the side of a well? Somebody did. But why? I rather think I'll go straight down again and see if I can open it. Right, lower me down. Right, stop!
Can you see it?
Yes, there's a rusty old bolt. There, that's it. No, the door's still jammed. Where's my penknife?
What's happening?
I'm scraping away some of the rust. Nearly there. Got it! It's open!
What's in it?
Can't see. Yes, there's something.
What is it? Dick, what can you see?
Pull me up. It's too extraordinary for words. Pull me up and I'll tell you.
Now what is it, Dick? Oh, do tell.
That door leads to where the treasures are hidden.
What?
It's true. The first thing I saw was a gold statue staring at me. Brilliant eyes in a gold face. Real gold. There are dozens of them. And what a hiding place. Right under the earth.
There must be another entrance to it. The well door must be a secret one. My word, what a find, Dick. No wonder the police could find nothing.
We might find the sword there and other treasures.
Shh! You'll bring the guards here, you idiot!
Stop it!
Now what? By the look of his tail, he's recognised something. Or somebody. Wilfred!
Hello, everybody.
How did you get here?
Well, when you didn't come back, I guess something was wrong.
But how did you know we were on Whispering Island?
The boy in the boats told me you'd taken one. And when it had been reported tossing about empty, I thought, aha! It didn't make the boat fast, and now they're marooned. You were pretty mean to go without me, but I guess you'd be pleased to see me if I borrowed a boat and came over.
Now we can go back whenever we want.
But we don't want to. Not at present. We've made some startling discoveries, Wilfred, and you'll be able to share in them. What's that in your pocket?
Oh, it's only a baby hedgehog. I've got a bag of food here too.
Wilfred, you're a marvel.
Wilfred had brought tins of tuna and fruit and baked beans, a large loaf, and even food for Timmy. They all sat and had a very welcome meal, and then rested in the sun. It was sinking now, but still very bright. Dick began to think of the night and how he and Julian would snoop round and find the way into that strange place underground where those golden statues stood silently in the darkness. Then he fell asleep, and only awoke when Anne gave him a friendly punch. He sat up and began talking to his sister. And then Anne suddenly looked round.
Where's Wilfred?
He must have slipped away without a sound. Now where's he gone? He'll get caught. Sure as can be. Good thing Timmy didn't go with him. He might have been caught too. And shot.
Oh, Timmy! Timmy would never go with Wilfred if I wasn't there too. Oh, what a little fool he is. Those men will guess there's someone else on the island with Wilfred, won't they? They might even make him tell all he knows, where the boat is and everything.
What shall we do?
Timmy will track for us. Come on, Tim. Find Wilfred. Find that silly, disobedient boy. Not so fast, Timmy.
He must have gone in that direction then. I never spotted him slinking away.
Listen.
What is it?
There it is again.
Let me go! Let me go!
Who are you with? Where are they? You are not alone, are you?
Quick, we must hide.
Up the trees!
Good idea. Hurry, everybody. Hurry!
But Timmy can't climb.
Put him under a bush and tell him to sit. Go on, George, quick.
All right. In you go, Timmy, and keep quiet.
How did you get here, eh?
In a boat.
Who was with you?
Nobody. I came alone. I wanted to visit the island. I'm an animal lover.
A likely story.
All right, then. See what I've got in my pocket.
What's that?
A hedgehog, see? It was trodden on by a horse. I'm looking after it.
Very well. You can go back to your boat and row away. At once, mind. We've business of our own here, and we don't want strangers around, not even silly little kids with the hedgehogs in their pockets.
Wilfred took to his heels and fled. He felt lost now. He would never find the others, or the cove where his boat was. Oh, why had he gone off on his own? He had entirely lost his sense of direction and had no idea whether to go to the left or right. He began to panic. Where could the others be? He must find them, he must. He thought he heard voices in the distance and rushed towards the sound. But alas, it died down. It was only the wind. The trees thinned out, and Wilfred suddenly saw the sea in the distance. Good. If he could get to it, he could walk round the shore till he came to his cove. He came to the edge of the cliff and looked down. What was that noise? That awful, dreadful noise? It was like a giant wailing and wailing at the top of his voice.
Of course! It's the Wailing Cliffs we were told about. That's all. Nothing to be frightened about. There's somebody down there. 3 or 4 of them too. Mustn't let them see me. What are they doing there? Funny. Now where have they gone? They've just disappeared. Must have gone into a cave. Here they are again. Carrying something this time. Boxes. What are they doing? Treasure. That's what it is. They're carrying out the treasure from the castle. I know it. And there's a steamer in the distance. Just wait till I tell the others. But where are the others? Ah! Let me go! Let me go! Timmy! Thank goodness you're here! Save me! What on earth? George! And Julian! It was you who grabbed me! I thought it was one of the men!
Where have you been, Wilfred? What do you mean by going off on your own like that?
I know. I'm sorry. I went off, then a man caught me and scared me. Then I ran away and lost myself. I couldn't find any of you. But I did see something very interesting.
What?
Let's sit down and I'll tell you. I feel quite shaky. You really are a beast to jump on me like that.
Never mind, Wilfred. Now go on. Tell us everything that happened.
They all listened to Wilfred's story with intense interest. Julian realized that the cave the men had come out of carrying the boxes must be some sort of passage into the cliffs, leading to the underground treasure chamber. It was time they did a bit of exploring, he decided.
What's the plan, Julian?
I propose we go to the cliffs, the Wailing Cliffs, as soon as it's twilight, and make our way down. Then we'll see if we can find the cave those men came out of. We better be on our guard, though. I don't expect to see a soul down there tonight, but you never know.
What then?
If there is a way through the cliffs, to the underground chamber, where Dick saw the golden statues, we'll be in real luck. We shall then be absolutely certain how things can be taken in and out.
Taken in? But I thought they'd been there for ages. They were probably only taken out to sell, smuggled out.
I think it may be more than that. It might even be a central clearing ground for a gang of high-class thieves who would hide valuable stolen goods there till it was safe to sell them.
I think somebody's discovered the underground chamber, full of the old man's treasures, and has taken them out bit by bit. Anyway, whatever it is, it's awfully exciting to think we know so much.
And all because we went down the well to get some water.
Put on your sweaters. It may be freezing cold in the wind round those cliffs.
I'm longing to start. This is a real adventure. Do you hear that, Timmy? An adventure.
At last they started off and made their way carefully down a cliff path to the rocks below. The tide was out, so the waves didn't splash up and soak them. Wilfred pointed out the cliff where he saw the men disappear, and they all made their way towards it. There they found a dark, slit-like opening in the cliff face. George took firm hold of Timmy's collar and followed Julian, and they all went inside. They found themselves in a passage, which slanted upwards and had a curious little stream flowing down the middle of it. On either side there were uneven ledges, which they walked on. As they climbed higher up the steep passage, they could feel a great draught, so there must be an opening somewhere up ahead.
Julian, we've not only gone upwards, we've gone a good way forward too. Wasn't the old castle somewhere in this direction?
Yes, I suppose it would be. Gosh, I wonder if this passage comes up in one of its cellars. An old castle like that would have huge cellars, and probably a dungeon or two for prisoners.
The wall of the well must run down beside the castle foundations.
Shh! Whisper, can't you idiot? You nearly made me jump out of my skin.
Sorry.
But I think you may be right about the well.
The wall in the well that funny little door was in was terrifically thick. I bet I was looking into one of the castle cellars when I peeped through it.
Oh, look! The passage is getting wider.
I think this part was man-made. Look at these old bricks here. Probably put there to strengthen the tunnel.
Yes, a secret way from the castle to the sea. Isn't it thrilling?
We're coming near the opening where the draft comes from. All quiet now, please. Just round this bend, I think. Oh, yes. An iron gate.
It's a little room with a door at the other end.
A dungeon, I should think. Let's see if this gate's locked. We're in luck. And the door at the other end is open too. That's where the draft is coming from.
Come on, then. Let's see what's behind it. Another passage. And some steps.
Let me look. Another huge door, but this one's bolted.
Oh, no.
But fortunately, the bolt is on our side. It's been oiled recently, too. Well, well, other people have been here not long ago and used this door. We better go quietly in case they're still here.
Be careful, Julian. Somebody may have heard us. They may be waiting to ambush us.
All right, Anne, don't worry. Old Timmy would give us a warning growl if he heard a single footstep. Right, here goes. Wow! See where we've come to. Did you ever see such a storehouse of wonders?
Let us see.
It's fantastic. And there are the golden statues I saw.
Look in this chest. This beautiful carved chest. Gold cups and plates and dishes.
And look what's over here. It's a set of animals carved out of some lovely green stone.
That's jade. Beautiful. Goodness knows how much they're worth. They should be in some sort of museum, not in here.
Why didn't those collectors take these things then?
That's obvious. This is a secret cellar, I should think. There's probably a sliding panel or hidden door that leads to it, somewhere in the castle above. And those men we saw are certainly not here to guard the animals on the island, as they were in the old couple's day.
You think they're in somebody's pay, then? Somebody who knows about the treasure chamber and wants it for himself?
Yes, and what's more, I don't think the real owner of the island even knows they're here, or anyone's taking things from the island. But now the thing is, what are we going to do about it?
We'll talk about it when we get back to the cottage. It's getting late. It'll be pitch dark outside unless the moon is up.
Well, come on then. Let's go.
Someone's coming.
Quick, hide! Behind this chest!
Emilio! Emilio! Are you in here? I'm coming. Oh, there you are. What are you doing behind me? I thought I had you in here.
Not me, Carlo.
Well, anyway, you know the boat. It comes tonight to take the next batch of goods. Eh? You got the list? We must wrap them quickly, take them to the shore. This little statue has to go, I know. Huh?
Yeah, I'll get the stuff. And I'll lay... Hey, what's this I see? A foot! Hey, Carlo! There's someone here! Right, out of there, you!
The kids! Now what are you doing here, eh? How you get in?
Hey, keep that dog back or I shoot him! Who are you? Now tell us what you're doing here.
We came by boat, but the boat got washed out to sea, and we just, wandered into this place by mistake.
By mistake? A likely story. Well, I can tell you, you certainly made the biggest mistake of your lives. Eh? You'll have to stay here for quite a long time, till our job's done at any rate.
Oh.
What is your job then?
Wouldn't you like to know? Well, part of it is to guard the island and keep off strangers like you. Now, I'm afraid we've got jobs to do, and you're going to have a miserable time. You stay in this old cellar till we come back here again.
Yeah, we better go, Carlo. Oh, we missed the boat out there. And we can deal with these kids when we get back. I'll take this statue.
Right, andiamo.
Don't say anything, in case they're listening outside the door. No, I think they've gone.
And suppose they never come back? We'll be here for keeps.
No, we won't. We can easily escape.
What? Through that locked and bolted door?
No, silly. Up there, see?
What am I supposed to look at, Anne? The old stone wall?
No, up there, to the right of that tall chest.
What an idiot I am. That's the old iron door inside the old well wall, isn't it? I see what you're getting at, Anne.
Good old Anne. Of course, we've only got to climb up to that hole in the wall, open the door, and go up the well.
Yes, but that's easier said than done. We've got to get hold of the rope and climb to the top. Not very easy. Anyway, it's our only hope of escape. Help push that chest until it's underneath the opening.
Come on!
It was quite a job pushing the heavy chest into position. Then, once they'd managed that, they had to get a little table on the top, so they could reach the little iron door that led into the old well. Julian and Wilfred lifted the table up, and Julian climbed up and gave the little iron door a hard shove. It shook a little, but didn't budge. So Dick climbed up alongside him and pushed, until with a groan it gave way and swung open inside the well wall. To the boys' delight, there was the rope hanging near them. Julian climbed up the rope first, followed by Wilfred. Then the two of them wound the rope up with Anne holding on. Dick saw her disappear up the well and heaved a sigh of relief. Now for George.
George, where are you? Come on.
I'm not going. You know Timmy can't hang on to a rope. I'm staying here with him. You go up the well.
Certainly not.
Right, you kids. Now I'm going...
Go for them, Timmy! Get them before they can hurt you! Well done, Timmy! You've knocked him out.
He's hit his head on the chest when Timmy bowled him over.
I'll take Timmy down the secret way through the cliff stick, all right?
Yes, go on. I'll climb up the well. Julian!
What's happened?
I'll tell you in a minute. Swing the rope a bit towards me.
Hey, mamma mia, what's keeping you? What? Hey, what? Carlo! Hey, here, you up there! Come here!
Not likely, but you can have this table if you want.
What? Hey, ow!
Julian, pull me up quickly. Pull!
In the meantime, George was hurrying down the secret way through the cliffs. Timmy ran first in front, and then behind, his ears pricked up for any possible pursuer or danger. He could hear no one. Good. It wasn't long before he and George came out of the tunnel in the cliff and found themselves on the rocks. The sea was splashing over them, and the waves gleamed in the bright moonlight. George saw something moving in the distance and put her hand on Timmy's collar. But he disobeyed her for once and leapt away, splashing through the pools, over the seaweed, barking madly. He had caught the scent of the others on the wind. What a joyful meeting that was! They all sat down on a convenient rock and talked 19 to the dozen, telling each other what had happened. And then a big wave suddenly came up and splashed all over them.
Blow! Tide's coming in, I suppose. Come on, let's get back to Whispering Wood.
I don't know what the time is. All I know is that I'm suddenly very sleepy.
It's very late. Long past our bedtime. What shall we do? Risk sleeping here on the island? Or find Wilfred's boat and row across to the mainland and have a peaceful sleep in that dear little cottage?
Oh, don't let's stay on the island. I'd never go to sleep. I'd be afraid those men would find us.
Don't be silly, Anne. They wouldn't have the remotest idea where to look for us. I honestly don't fancy looking for Wilfred's boat, rowing all the way to the mainland, and then climbing up that steep hill to the cottage.
Well, all right, but oughtn't somebody to be on guard? Shouldn't we each take turns?
Why? Timmy would hear anyone, wouldn't he?
I suppose so. All right, We'll stay here then.
They were all very tired. The boys pulled armfuls of old dry bracken and spread it on a patch of grass where bushes sheltered them from the wind. In about 3 seconds, George was fast asleep. Wilfred dropped off at once too, and Dick and Julian were soon giving gentle little snores. Anne was still awake. She lay and worried, keeping her ears open for any strange sound. Timmy heard her tossing and turning and crept over to her very quietly so as not to wake George. He lay down beside Anne, giving her a loving lick. But still she didn't fall asleep. And then quite suddenly she heard something. So did Timmy. He sat up and gave a very small growl. Anne strained her ears. Yes, it was certainly voices she could hear, low voices. It was the men coming to find Wilfred's boat. Timmy ran a little way from the bushes. Anne got up quietly and followed. She really must see what was happening. The men had come quietly round the island in their own boat to set Wilfred's boat adrift. Anne saw them pushing it down the sand towards the sea. Once it was adrift, she and the others would be prisoners on the island. She yelled at the top of her voice.
You stop that! It's our boat! Stop that, I say! How dare you come and take our boat! And get them, Timmy, get them! How dare you take our boat! Bite them, Timmy!
Pull him off! I'm getting out of here!
Good, they're going!
Anne, are you all right? What's happening?
Oh, Julian, I'm so glad you've come. I think Timmy and I have frightened them off. Those men were going to set our boat loose.
Frighten them off? You scared them stiff. Good gracious. The mouse has suddenly turned into a fearsome tiger.
A tiger? Am I really? I'm glad. Julian, why can't we row back to the mainland now? I've a good mind to take that boat of Wilfred's and row myself back if you don't want to come.
I believe it's dangerous to say no to a tiger. So you shall have your way, Anne. I'm awfully hungry anyway, and I bet the others are too. I bet if those men spot us out on the sea in a boat going across to the mainland, they'll feel pretty uncomfortable. They'll know we'll be going to the police first thing tomorrow. This has been quite an adventure, hasn't it? I shall be glad of a little peace now.
Well, you shall have it, Julian. That little cottage is waiting for you all, with its glorious view over the harbour and Whispering Island. You'll have quite a lot of excitement tomorrow, of course, when the police take you back to the island in their boat, and you show them the old well, the vast treasure chamber, the secret passage, and all the rest. You'll be there when the men are rounded up, and you'll watch them chugging off, prisoners in the police boat, amazed that the famous 5 should have defeated them. What an adventure! And what a relief now that the excitement is over and the 5 have seen the last of the police.
Now for a real lazy time. Let's all go out on the hill in the sunshine and have orangeade and biscuits and fruit salad. And Wilfred shall play his magic pipe and bring his furred and feathered friends to see us.
Has he found his pipe then?
Yes. He took the well bucket to get some water to drink, and lo and behold, the pipe was at the bottom of the bucket. He thinks it must have fallen there the last time he went to fetch water from the well.
Oh, good. Wilfred, what about playing a tune on your little pipe? I'm so glad it's found. I'd like to hear it again.
All right, I'll see if my friend here still remembers me.
As Wilfred began to play, the birds in the trees turned their heads. The lizards raised themselves. Rabbits stopped their play, and a magpie flew down to the boy's foot and sat there. Wilfred didn't stir. He just went on playing as the creatures came to listen. Julian is lying back, looking at the April sky, glad that their adventure ended so well. Dick is looking down to Whispering Island, set in the brilliant blue harbour. Anne is half asleep. Quiet little Anne, who can turn into a tiger if she has to. And George, of course, is close to Timmy, her arms around his neck, very happy indeed. Goodbye, famous five. It was fun sharing in your grand adventure.